America owes whom? Borrowers serve lenders. I'm Michael J. Muccio, author of America's Battle for Free Enterprise, The Value of Incentive and Competition. And I'm going to talk about chapter 4 of the book, The Borrower is Servant to the Lender. Now, what does that mean? Well, most people, even those that are quite responsible and successful in their various careers and other areas of their lives, are not aware of where the money comes from when our politicians spend more money than the tax revenue that comes into the country. So where does that money come from? Just out of thin air? Well, whether we want to or not, we as a country, as a government, must answer to a whole array of investors. Now the question is, do we in the United States really want to be a servant? If the borrower is servant to the lender, do we really want to be a servant to China, Japan, Great Britain, OPEC, Brazil, Taiwan, Caribbean banking centers, and Hong Kong? Now, I just named some of the main ones, but combined, it's a total of $5 trillion of our national debt is owed to foreigners. Now, how serious is that? Well, Admiral Mullen, the former Joint Chiefs Chairman after a 43-year military career, says that our national debt is the single biggest threat to our national security. He says if we don't get control of our debt, there'll be a continued loss of confidence in America. But what a bright future if we would cut our spending, favor business, and deal with the debt. What if a very large, now here's another question, what if a very large mutual fund, one of the many that we owe, consisting of a large number of, say, foreign investors, what if they really analyze the evidence of our out-of-control spending, and they decide that when they really evaluate the state of the United States and our economy and the politicians' continual spending that's out of control, they decide to sell their holdings in U.S. Treasuries? What if that were to happen? Well, have you ever heard of a run on a bank? As soon as one sells, it can create a ripple effect, and before long you have a large percentage of investors selling their positions. So what would that mean for us as a country? Well, it's very likely that the stock market would crash, the value of the dollar would sink much lower than it already has, interest would go way up, and then our interest payment on the national debt would be out of sight. It'd be huge. It would affect government checks such as Medicare, Social Security, and welfare. All of this would occur. We're walking on very thin ice by this continual spending more than we take in. Now, one senator cites that we're effectively already bankrupt. Well, when you think about that for a minute, we're borrowing $3.5 billion a day with no way to pay it back. Top economists predict that the world will hit a debt wall and a liquidity crisis sometime in 2013. It's rather difficult to believe that we have actually allowed our elected officials to unwisely represent us in a manner that they've done for such a long time. The government is an extension of us. We're a republic. So we, as the people at the grassroots level, are responsible for what goes on in our government. That's why I'm all about education and getting people to read this book, America's Battle for Free Enterprise, where I lay out the facts so that everybody knows it. They're not 30-second sound bites. You get the complete story there so you can articulate it to others. Now, President Reagan said many years ago that government is not the solution to our problems. Government is the problem. But once again, if we cut our spending, we can return our country to a state of prosperity and hopefulness for future generations. But we'll be right back in a minute to talk about more of America's battle for free enterprise.